This is TWiT. At the annual Unpacked event 2020, one phone looks just like an iPhone, as Samsung phones have for forever and ever. That's the S20, and there's three of them. But they're going after the iPhone. They focused on photography, and in particular focused on videography, which is where the iPhone has had an upper hand even over the Google Pixels forever. Renee, your colleague actually has an S20 and did a review of video from both the iPhone and the S20. What was his conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a lot. There was a few takeaways that I really thought was interesting. One is they've got a very iPhone Pixel style camera bump, which is like a bit of a regression because I always thought Samsung had nicer looking cameras on the back than most other vendors. But there's just so much gear you want to pack in there now that seems to be where everybody is packing it. And they're going up, they're taking a page out of Huawei's playbook, and that is off the record. They're recognizing that they just don't have the same sort of machine learning prowess or the same silicon prowess that Apple or Google has. So they're putting massive 108 megapixel sensor in there, and they're pixel binning it, which means like you combine the pixels to try to get an image that's better than the pixels by themselves would produce. And they took Google Super Zoom and they've got to like 10 times, 100 times with digital zoom. And they do this one shot where you're just at something and you fly. It looks like you're flying all the way backwards. And that kind of stuff, that and the macro stuff they're doing on the light cameras is just super interesting to me. It feels like the next stage of computational photography. The video stuff, I'm more concerned about because they spend a lot of time saying 8K, and I've seen so much bad 4K that I would have loved to hear them talk about, we're doing enhanced dynamic range, we're doing full high dynamic range. We've got an image signal processor that can just trounce all these frames coming in and really make sure you get consistent color and consistent all these things. And they didn't say one word about the quality of the pixels, just kept hammering the quantity of the pixels.
Well, and they said, and you can share it with another Samsung phone user, but as far as I can tell, Samsung does not make an 8K screen.
They make an 8K television. They said you could beam it to.
Your television.
But that's an expensive television.
And nobody owns it.
Yeah.
8K is apparently like 5G. It's just another number and letter.
It's nice to
for technology
I would like it to crop and to pan and zoom within. Like I would like 4K. A lot of people use 4K to make really, really good 1080p, and you can make really good 4K out of 1080.
So you're saying downsample the 8K.
Downsample it or crop in. Like you could use it to do fake zooms, fake pans. But I don't know the bit rate. I don't know the quality of that 8K, and that's the part that I'd be really interested in. Because you have a lot of cameras, like real cameras, that shoot really bad 4K. The number itself is meaningless.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I had to laugh when I saw Forbes headline, iPhone 12 beats Galaxy S20. It's like, Ewan, what are you talking about? We don't
I blocked them at localhost, fortunately.
Holy cow. Go ahead.
No, I agree with Renee that the quality of the pixels are what we have to really look at, and how much detail we're getting, what's being made up, like what pixels are true pixels versus what pixels are being created.
What a camera bump. That is a crazy camera bump.
And how sharp it's going to be, and then again, exactly, the bandwidth is going to be a big issue, where if you're 8K at 20 megs a second, is not that much. It's going to be very
well. Go back to that.
Pixelated.
Stay on the pixels.
8K.
So
now,
they're saying the ultra wide is 12 megapixels. The wide angle is 108 megapixels. The telephoto is 48 megapixels. That's all pixel binning, though. None of that. The only one that's native is 12.
You can get the 108 if you really want it. You can get it off the thing. But mostly it bins down to 12, I believe.
12 and 16. Although, interestingly, because they were talking about 9X, and they mentioned 108, which is coincidentally 9 times 12. So I think really they're 9X binning.
Yes.
Which
exactly that.
And the zoom that they showed was very fuzzy and soft. It's optical. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to
see. That's why for me, every time that Samsung has a product release, they have a bad track record of really wanting to make sure that they have a number that they can put on a slide that looks big, or a feature that demos well, that 2 or 3 weeks after you've bought it, you stop using it because it just doesn't work all that great. They were very, very early to have face recognition, but it was bad. You couldn't use it. They were very, very early to have. They had features for keeping track of your pulse. It was really hard to use. You didn't want to use it. The list goes on and on and on and on. So I haven't tried it yet. They have a good reputation with cameras, but every time I see it's always for me that's interesting if it's true. Let's find out if it's true.
Those phones won't be out for a while. March 6th is the delivery date on those.